Should I go at 0? It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. We're back live on the Big Mountain.
Welcome back to the Big Mountain. JY and Steve back with another live episode. Glad you're feeling better.
Yes, thank you.
All back to normal?
Yeah, we'll see. Are we at our age? Are we ever normal again? Are we ever going to be normal?
I haven't been normal since never mind.
Since you came out the womb.
That's what I was going to say. See, we know each other all too well, Steve. But welcome aboard, everybody. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. You're going to talk about the NFL Combine.
Yes.
I want to get your take on the possible tampering penalties. I brought that up last week, but you weren't here to give your opinion, and I want to hear your opinion.
Yep.
And then I'm going to talk about something that we haven't talked about yet, and I haven't been talking about it. I've been waiting, but we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
And that's A.D. Barnes up at Oregon State. Things are tough up there, and I'm going to go through kind of the issues that they had last year. I'm going to break that down. We have not talked about it. And for everybody that wants to say that we like to crap on the pack, which I know most of our live dwellers don't say that, but I have a lot of people on Twitter that seem to think that's all I ever do. I will have everyone know that we haven't talked about any of this stuff, and it's pretty juicy. I mean, it's juicy stuff. But anyway, happy Wednesday.
Yeah, happy Wednesday. We're in the off season. It's NFL Combine time. Not a ton going on for me over here in the Big Ten. Got a few things, we've been monitoring. Out west of the Mississippi, man, it seems like there's all kinds of stuff going on.
All right, Steve. Moses in the house saying happy Wednesday. Of course, Las Vegas, Larry, giving everyone a happy hump day. We've got Brad saying good evening to everyone. We got Bill in the house from Chattanooga, Tennessee. We've got James. Good to have you, James. He reminds us, or is telling everyone, maybe they didn't know this. It just happened today, or it was announced today.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of the information, but it says that Coach Holtz passed away, and I think he has been unwell for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lou Holtz, a legend, has a broad coaching tree that he created himself with his son's coaching. And
there you go.
Was the coach at Notre Dame. I believe he won a national championship there. Most, especially younger people, know him from being on TV.
Right.
But I know we have some. Our audience tends to be some older gentlemen who remember when he was coaching. And I mean, you and I certainly, as we were growing up, he was coaching Notre Dame. So just a legend. Obviously sad, but he lived a long, full life. And so I think there's more reason to just celebrate his life than be sad about it, because he lived a good long time, has a great family.
Yeah.
So
no doubt. Well, Steve, you want to jump into it?
Yeah, let's go.
We'll go into the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Combine. And I haven't been following anything about the Combine. So anything that you say will be news to me.
Yeah. So I've been following the Combine this year pretty I haven't really watched it because it's kind of boring to watch, but it's easy to follow it online now with like Twitter and everything. And obviously I was looking at Big Ten players and how they did at the Combine.
Right.
So I wanted to point out, I wasn't going to cover every single Big Ten player, what they ran and all this, but there's 5 people that really kind of jumped out at me.
Okay.
They did pretty well. And then I might have a couple other people either inside the Big Ten or outside to talk about. So let's roll right into it. So my 5 highlighted players from the Big Ten I want to talk about. First of all, Jacoby Lane, wide receiver from USC.
Okay.
Was very productive, big playmaker at USC, but there were questions about him. Could he be a NFL wide receiver? Specifically, there were a lot of questions about his speed.
Yeah.
So he went to the Combine, ran a 4.47 in the 40, which is great.
Yeah.
Shows that he actually has that NFL speed. And from what I understand, he also made a lot of big catches, athletic catches where he had to dive for it and all that. I didn't watch it, live, but he also had a 40-inch vertical jump, which is very good for a wide receiver. So that was it. He was productive. He was explosive.
Okay.
Great athlete, but there really were questions of how was he going to test? What was his measurable? What was he going to run? I'm pretty sure that the scouts and everybody are probably pretty surprised that he got sub 4.5. That's where you need to be. I mean, there's some guys that are like 4.2, 4.3 that are just crazy fast. Stupid fast. But just to be an average, like a good NFL receiver, you need to be in that 4.4, 4.5 range, and he's right there. So that jumped out at me. The next person I wanted to talk about, Kenyon Sadiq, tight end.
Okay.
Well, first, did you want to say anything about Jacoby Lane? Yeah, figured a USC wide receiver that's way down on your list of things that you were paying attention to. So, Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon, missed some time this last year, but was just a crazy, was a beast. He had production when he was healthy and he played, had really good production on the field. One of their best players.
Is this the picture of the guy you wanted up?
No, I think that's.
You tell me when you get to him.
That's going to be Sunny Styles. So
okay, sorry.
A couple more.
I interrupted you.
No, it's all right. So Kenyon Sadiq, tight end from Oregon, great weapon for them. One of their best players, was injured a little bit, but when he was healthy, really, really productive.
Okay.
And was known as a bit of a freak. So we talked about Jacoby Lane getting that 4.47 in the 40 to show he could be an NFL wide receiver.
Yeah.
Well, Kenyon Sadiq, a tight end, big dude, big physical dude, runs a 4.39, so even faster than wide receiver speed.
Wow.
I mean, a sub 4.4 tight end is that's insane.
Yeah.
And he also jumped a 43-inch vertical, so 3 inches higher than the wide receiver we just talked about. So just insane numbers. And with his body type and his production, I think they had some questions maybe about his height, and he came in like right around 6'3".
Okay.
So good height for a tight end. I mean, some of those elite tight ends are in that like 6'5", 6'6" range.
Yeah.
But still full 6'3". So that got rid of those questions about him and just put up some insane numbers. So his draft stock definitely moving up. And that's what you'll see with these five guys, are guys that are moving up even higher if they were already high.
Sure.
So Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon, put up some great numbers. Now let's talk about the next two players that we're going to talk about are from Ohio State. Okay. Team was absolutely loaded this year, had a fantastic season. Freshman quarterback did really good during the season, but not so much in the playoffs, especially when he faced like his kryptonite, which was that Miami defense. Yeah. They were putting a hurting on every quarterback. Yep. So, for a freshman, that was a tall task. But I'm going to talk about two defensive players right now because they had an insane defense this year. So two brothers, Lorenzo Styles and Sonny Styles. Okay. So Lorenzo Styles is safety. All right. So we talked about those speeds and having, for a wide receiver about 4.4 or less, really, really good. Lorenzo Styles goes out and runs a 4.27 as a safety.
He's quick.
Yeah. So that's like, the fastest guys in the world kind of speed.
Yeah.
That's like Deion Sanders speed nearly. And he's a safety who can cover everything over the middle. So goes out, runs a 4.27. And he was already looked at. I mean, safeties don't necessarily usually have that value of a cornerback, of a cover corner, lockdown guy. Right. But now you have a safety who's shown he could play really well. And goes out and runs a 4.27, meaning he if you need him to cover those fast wide receivers, he can. Right. So his draft stock was already high and going up. Now I'm going to talk about his brother, Sonny Styles. That's where we want the picture put up. If you're able to. Yes. So his brother, a linebacker, also from Ohio State. He goes out. He was the first player ever at weighing 230 pounds or more. So he's a linebacker, 230 pounds, perfect linebacker size. Yeah. He goes out at 230 pounds and runs a sub 4.5 40 and a broad jump of 11 feet. Dude jumped 11 feet. And so he's the first player in history of that. I mean, we've seen so many talented players. Yeah. This is him here, I think, running his 40. Runs a sub 4.5, so that means he's probably 4.4. I think he was like 4.47, 4.48, something like that. So right around wide receiver speed, 230 pounds, and a broad jump of 11 feet. The dude is an absolute freak, just a dominant specimen of an athlete. Yeah. I mean, the sky is the limit. The thing with him as a linebacker, they're not usually drafted super, super high. Right. But this guy can do anything on the field. He can run with wide receivers. Yep. He can hit. He can rush the passer. Can do everything. So Sonny Styles, first player in NFL history to be 230 pounds and have sub before 540 and a broad jump of 11 feet. So absolute dominant athlete.
That's dominant. I mean, that's incredible.
It is. It's crazy. And when you think to that Ohio State team, and I mean, look how great they played this year.
Yeah,
they stumbled in the playoff. They hit a Miami team that was just almost like destined, to get to that national championship.
Seemed like it. Yeah.
But the talent on this team, again, when you look at it, they could be the most talented team that never won a national championship. When we might look back 5-6 years from now and say, how the heck are all these guys on one team? Right now, they have between 6 and 10 players that are projected to be in the first round. So maybe up to a third of the entire first round of the draft might be Ohio State players. And also there's about 4 or 5 guys that could be selected in the top 10.
Oh, wow.
From Ohio State, from one team.
That's incredible.
It's absolutely amazing. We'll see when the next mock drafts come out after this. But just the talent they had on that team was amazing. Now, the last player I want to talk about.
Well, Carla agrees with you.
Oh, yeah. I'm
sure Carl's brothers just completely showing out at the combine.
Absolutely. I mean, just dominating. 2 brothers dominating the combine. And
Bill said that he drove by Lucas Oil Stadium yesterday, but he missed all the fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Carla, I know she's a huge Buckeyes fan, and I'm sure she was excited watching that. And just another... I mean, every year, Ohio State players got so much talent and just filling the NFL draft, filling the NFL with more players from Ohio State.
Yep.
There was a lot made of the whole, Big Ten has a ton of players in the top 10 are going to be in the first round showing out. Well, yes, they do. But like half of those were Ohio State players.
Sure,
it was amazing how well their players did in the combine.
Yep.
So my last player I want to talk about is a center from Iowa. So
wow,
excited.
I like it.
Yeah, Logan Jones. I did watch some where they had the lineman specialist kind of breaking down guys, and there's one guy that everybody kept talking about. And center is weird because you would think like they don't make very much money,
right?
But they really do have a lot of value. Like every team needs a good center, but for whatever reason. They don't usually make a lot of money, but this guy, he might have made some money for himself because everybody's talking about him.
Okay.
Logan Jones. We know Iowa has had a good reputation for putting out linemen, but basically the consensus was this guy, best looking center in the draft. Anyone who needs a starting center right away in the NFL, you just get them and plug them in. So it was just amazing hearing everybody gush about him. With centers, it's not always about the numbers, the 40-yard dash and this and that.
Right.
It's, how good of an athlete they are, how big they are, but also how do they communicate? They got to be able to pass block. They got to be able to run block. They got to be able to call the coverages, communicate with not only their other linemen, but the quarterback as well.
Yep.
They're if you compare it to baseball, they're almost like the catcher. They're kind of helping the quarterback call the game.
Yeah.
So anyways, just wanted to mention him, another Iowa offensive lineman, not necessarily about his broad jump or any of that stuff, but just more the way the experts on linemen were all gushing over this guy, said he was the best looking center in the draft, and he had great results for a center in all the drills. So I want to throw him out there.
I love that.
Promote a lineman from Iowa.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give a quick shout out. You sent me some info on one of my Wyoming Cowboys that's doing well. I'm anxious to see if he gets picked up in the draft. My good old friend, well, he's not really my friend, but I can pretend.
Yeah.
John Michael Gillenborg, tight end. He's had some health issues in college. He's always missed time.
Yes.
And you'll have that.
Yes.
But he's a heck of an athlete. I mean, and you sent me some of his stats or the data, and he's there.
Yeah.
He's doing well.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's shaped. He's looking great for the draft. And yeah, he got injured at Wyoming. He's a big physical player that at times was really the focus of their offense.
Yes.
So when the defense comes in, their whole thing is this is a big dude. If we can stop him, if we can hit him as much as possible, we can stop the Wyoming offense. Honestly, and he took the brunt of that. But he prototypical size and everything for the NFL. And I will say, I think we'll call him a friend of the show. We got to talk to him during media days last year. and great guy,
awesome dude,
great attitude. You
Yep.
know, he's the guy that will go in there and work hard, very coachable.
Yep.
And I expect him to have a good career in the NFL.
Worked his butt off. He was a guy, I can say this now because the season's over. But when I was up in Laramie this past year, before the border war, that's when he was kind of injured. They didn't know if he was going to play or not going to play. But when I did my tour, he's in the weight room.
Yeah.
Working hard.
Beast.
Doesn't matter. The dude works his butt off. All right. So Wes wants to know, Steve, he thinks it's time for us to do our own 40s.
Oh, boy. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I don't think it's a good idea either, but I appreciate the idea.
I'm pretty sure one of us would tear something.
I just off the line.
Yes.
I would probably fall over.
Yes.
I've never been much of a runner. I'm not a runner.
Maybe somewhere we can find some video of JY and I back in high school days on a tennis team, running some laps around the tennis courts.
Did we ever do that?
We were supposed to.
Oh, okay. JEH is in the house. He's late, but that's okay. We got started a little late too. It's my daughter's 17th birthday, so we were doing some gift opening upstairs. She's been on the pod, I think, once before. She was a special informant for me at one time. And then 40 as in beer. Now you're talking less.
Yeah.
That's a different situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. My bad.
We could have a competition of who could pound a 40 quicker, who could finish it. That could be a competition. We were both qualified.
Can we put that on YouTube?
I don't know.
I mean, we did a beer taste test one time, so I guess you can. And Wes says he's got a Lobo Louie bobblehead for us. Speaking of Lobo Louie and speaking of the Lobos, just announced about an hour or two ago, Ryan Berriman named the UNM AD. So he was interim here for a little while they did their search. I was kind of hoping he was going to get the job. They named him the AD today. He was kind enough to join me a month ago, give or take, maybe 2. Super excited for him. Super excited for the Lobos. I think he keeps things going where AD Lovo kind of started things. He definitely, I think, is made out of the same type of mold for sure. So appreciate Wes talking about the Lobos because I may have forgotten to bring up that important news.
Yeah.
All right. I think, I was going to say, I wanted to say something to JEH. JH, we're going to be talking Beavs later. Just news. I'm not, just news. And I want to hear your thoughts. So I'm glad you're with us tonight, sir. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But before we get to that, let's go to our second topic, Steve. Tampering. Dun, dun, dun. I'm sure you've seen the proposal, the potential penalties for tampering. And what do you think?
I think it's a good idea in theory. It would be great to have some kind of limits on this. We saw, I'm trying to remember who it was. We saw Dabo at Clemson calling out the LSU coaching staff for tampering and poaching their players. So I think just in general, very, very good idea to have some kind of guardrails or restrictions on tampering. Okay. And they're trying to do something, which is good. But I have zero faith. Well, I have very little faith that the NCAA will be able to pass some legislation, whatever body decides to do this, whether it's the NCAA, I forget what it's called, the CSC or CFC, College Football Commission, whoever tries to do this.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Whoever tries to do this, I don't have very much confidence that they will be able to get it done. That's just part of the equation. Get it passed, to actually pass some things that people are happy with and are willing to all vote for. And then B, the bigger part is are they able to enforce it? Because the way they're proposing it is they're saying, okay, we're not penalizing the student, we're penalizing the school for their actions. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is when you keep a school from reaching out to someone,
right,
you are also you are restricting the opportunities that players will have. And I think that is something that would end up being challenged in court.
Yep.
And all of that. It'd be like, I mean, you're if you were to seek employment somewhere else and your boss were to call and say, don't you talk to JY, he's mine, I got him, and try and actually do something to prevent them. I think that will just open a lot of doors, legal challenges, which that's all we see right now for all NCAA rules. And I mean, everything's just legal challenge after legal challenge. And I think we'd be in that same scenario again, where some states.
Yeah.
Right. So the only way that this can practically get done would be federal legislation.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, again, we've talked about before. I started at almost zero faith in federal legislation. You and Immaculate got me to like 15%, almost there. Well, now we've seen nothing.
You swung back.
Yeah. It seems obvious at this point that there are people that want the headlines, want to talk about, and I think there are some people in Congress who generally care about it, but there's not enough to actually get something done, I don't think, anytime soon. So I'm taking a big poo-poo all over the idea of actually passing anything and having it stand up in court.
Okay. Well, you're more negative than I thought you were going to be about it.
I think it's a great idea on principle.
Yeah. Well, and there's different pieces to it. Yeah. So there's the penalizing the coach. Well, it's penalizing the team. The coach can't, basically do anything. I mean, it wasn't the Harbaugh sitch where, you just can't be on the sidelines, but you can kind of do everything else if you want to do it. He can't do anything. No team meetings, no access, like nothing. He's totally removed for it's 6 games or 6 weeks or whatever it is. Then there was the fine to the university, 20, I think it was 20% of the athletic budget. And then there was the you lose 5 roster spots for next season. And I'm like, that last one, and it goes back to what you said.
Opportunities.
Yes, you're going to get in trouble when you limit athletes, free market, whatever you want to call it right now. And while you might get through the coach thing because you're affecting just that team and that, you might get through the penalty to the university, but we all know the university is going to fight it. The third one, to me, when you start messing with the players directly, cutting spots, that's going to be a big legal problem. And the other thing I said last week was, it's a total do as I say is not as I do. They're all going to say we need this. Yeah, penalize people, penalize them. But as soon as it happens to us, we don't want to be penalized anymore. And there's a good reason why. And we'll tell you the good reason why in a court of law.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to take one. So they passed this. It's going to take one state, the state of Georgia, the state of Louisiana, to then pass one law saying the NCAA cannot enforce that in our state. Right. And then what do you do? Okay, now you're going to make everybody participate except for the schools in Georgia and Louisiana.
Which is, there's so many problems as we've seen, to your point. But
I know.
You can't, what is this we're saying? You can't win for trying?
Yeah,
whatever the hell it is. But yeah, all right. So I see rumblings and JEH, they're going at it with some of the Oregon State stuff.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm going to hold off on putting any of that up right now. But before we get to any of that, so I don't know. I just wanted to hear your thoughts basically on the tampering stuff.
A lot of people have ideas on throwing, like, they want to throw out ideas, but who's going to enforce it?
Yeah.
How are they going to enforce it? That's my problem with the whole thing.
Now, the one thing I thought you might say is in support of the NCAA, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Forget the whole employment sitch that you mentioned. Just forget that for a minute.
Yep.
Being that the NCAA is a membership organization and these entities are choosing to be in that organization, does that not help hold water for them to penalize based on their members' approval?
So
forget the student athlete.
No. Yeah. So I think it can in certain circumstances, like there's a big discussion right now. I know it's kind of changing the subject, but the pooling, being forced to pool their resources and all that. Okay. I can see schools being able, basically, if they try and challenge that, then the court saying, well, if you don't want to be in the Big Ten or the whatever, you can just leave if you want to be in. But in this situation, I don't think the problem is necessarily going to be the schools. I still think most of the problem is going to be the student athletes suing for lack of opportunities, which I know you said don't worry about that.
I know,
but that's the case. But
I was trying to pigeonhole it into another area.
But for the schools, the problem is going to be this. I mean, you can see how I'll use LSU because I just feel like picking on LSU.
Go for it.
You know, Lane Kiffin just went there, and they're the villain or the bell of the ball. Whatever.
Nobody likes them.
Yeah. So if Lane Kiffin says, "Yeah, this is a great idea," the LSU president AD said, "Yeah, we're good with this," but the governor of Louisiana signs a law saying this is not legal in our state. They can just say, "Well, you know what? This is the law. We have to comply with the law in our state. Louisiana. We're a public university."
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. I did want to say, what was the? Well, I guess that's it. That's pretty much.
Oh, it's a whole rabbit hole.
There's so many and they will continue to use it any means that they can, like you talked about earlier,
right?
Because it's we want to point fingers, but we don't want any restrictions on
exactly. That's to me that's where all of this stuff, whether it's tampering penalties or bring up whatever you want to bring up.
Yep.
It's a do as I say, not as I do. If it does happen to us, we'll have a gazillion excuses as to why you shouldn't penalize us to the fullest extent or at all. Like it's a freaking mess.
Absolutely.
Dwayne from Southeastern Kentucky, back with us. Good to have you. Let's see. Okay, we're still going on. Everybody else is still going on Oregon State. So let's get to that. So I have a little bit of a kind of a write up here, Steve, that I want to kind of go over. And yes, I know Rumbling said the blueprint it's a done deal. That's old news, and I agree. It was last summer, fall. A lot of the salacious stuff came out the end of last calendar year. I know Oregon State fans have kind of moved on from that piece, but my goodness, the snowball is just continuing to roll down the hill. So the focus of what I'm going to be talking about is that issue, because I think that has kind of been the piece that's now gleaned or shined a brighter light on the department and specifically AD Barnes. And man, every little thing that's happening. I mean, JEH said it. I'm going to put it up here. He said it long ago. And this is where a lot of Beaver fans are at right now. Fire Barnes. That's where a lot of them are at. So I'll go back to some of your guys' comments, JEH, Rumbling, and whoever else is joining us. So, keep going. Have at it as you wish. But, as I said, JEH said it. A lot of fans they're not real happy with the athletic department. Most of the daggers are focused on to Scott Barnes. I mean, he's the head of the department, for crying out loud. Yep. He's been running the show. And it's been fairly well known that Barnes he's not been a super approachable kind of AD. I mean, I've heard that from several people. When you hear him in interviews, he doesn't, he's not overly
friendly.
Yeah, he's kind of a bah humbuggy kind of guy. At least that's just the feel that I get from him. He might be a great guy. Never met him. But I have heard not real approachable, has had some poor relationships with donors, really hasn't, been interested in this new world of NIL, rev share, not interested in it. He thinks it's toxic. He wants to go back to, student athletes are student athletes, like old schooly type of stuff, right? And there's something to be said to that. Like, I'm not going to judge people like that. But if you're going to be the AD in today's world, you can't be a curmudgeon.
Yep.
I said it.
It's not 1995.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, you gotta stay with the Joneses, so to speak. Some believe he was actually going to get fired a few years ago with President Alexander. That didn't happen. Of course, the PAC then collapsed, not exactly within, a couple months, but the PAC collapsed. In the initial stages of that, Steve, we covered that extremely closely. I know the PAC dwellers know how much we covered that collapse and then support of the Beavs and the Cougs at the time. We did a ton of shows on that.
Yep.
And really in the beginning, we saw a lot of Washington State President Schultz, Washington State's AD. But really as the time went on and Schultz obviously retired, AD left, Barnes has kind of been, at least from what I have seen, kind of the guy that's like rebuilt the PAC. Now, I get it. There's presidents, there's other people involved, but he really kind of became that
kind of figurehead
and really the only one that really would kind of take interviews about where the pack was at, what they were rebuilding, all that kind of stuff. Now, we've got the pack, and again, I am not trying to crap on them. It just is what it is. They're struggling to find a ninth football member. Clearly, OSU has had on-field issues, wins and losses. We know what happened with coaching. We know what happened last football season. Fiscal reality right now in the pack for the Pac-2 is a new reality. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I don't mean to rehash that, but it's a new reality. And some fans, Steve, I don't mean our Dweller fans, but some fans still don't understand that.
Yep.
And they think it's all Barnes' fault. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to get into stuff. Some of it's Barnes' fault. But the reality of where Oregon State was at in the old pack with the likes of USC, Oregon, I'm sorry I said Oregon, but, Washington
right.
State or Washington and all, it's just not where they are today.
Right.
And the revenues associated with that aren't what they were at that time. And so, a lot of people think time is running thin for A.D. Barnes, whether it's fire him or he's going to retire. Maybe they'll agree to kind of like part ways, whatever the case may be. Here we're at the end of the basketball season with 2 weeks left. They fire their basketball coach.
Yeah, right.
Like not mid-season, but like you can't let him finish the season for a couple weeks. Like a lot of questions. It's just weird timing of things, right? Like, so before I go down this route of this kind of rehashing this blue point, whatever, I mean, what are your thoughts on what's happening over there?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of programs around the country facing the kind of newer, harsher realities.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. All the money is flowing, to the top power conferences, the top teams, the biggest programs. Money is flowing that way, and everyone else is kind of having to make do. So there's a lot of people in this boat.
Yeah.
I could talk about recently with Iowa State, some things that have happened there. And they're in the Big 12, Power 4.
Yeah,
they've had some issues in there.
And they're just new news about Rutgers. I mean,
Rutgers and Maryland both having issues with with finances in their athletic department. So, so even schools like that who are getting finally getting Big 10 payouts and Big 12 payouts are having troubles and having to face new realities. And I would say for both Oregon State and Washington State, that's been kind of double or triple fold on them with everything that happened with the pack fallout, back collapsing, and it's kind of like playing musical chairs, and they were left without a chair.
Right.
And they've tried to do, and Barnes, like you said, stood up and really tried to do as much as he could to help salvage the pack at that point, help salvage his program, his school. And they were put in a really, really bad spot in some very difficult circumstances that were completely out of their control. Like everything that started this was essentially completely out of their control. So, So having said that kind of sets the scene.
Yeah.
They're having, even bigger issues than some of the other programs around the country because they've been put in a bad spot. Now, there are things you can control.
Right.
Okay. I want to go back to what A.D. Frazier told us when we had interviewed him from Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
He talked about there's two parts to being an athletic director. You have the practitioner.
Yes.
The person who keeps the trains running on time, gets their student athletes here, there, does the scheduling, does the transportation, all of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole story of what's been happening over the last year.
Sure.
But from what I understand, A.D. Barnes has had a long history of being a very good practitioner, of being an AD. Now, maybe things have changed recently.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's another part of it, which is that kind of partly politician, partly salesman.
Yes.
Which means you got to go out there. You have to advocate publicly for your program, for your school, and sell donors, fans on, what is the future? What does the future look like? And this is why we need your help financially and all that stuff.
Right.
And sell a vision that people want to support.
Yeah.
And it sounds like on that note, it seems pretty apparent that maybe he hasn't done a great job over the last few years, or let's say since the NIL world started.
And isn't maybe interested. Not only has he not done a good job, but he's just kind of not interested in it.
Right. And or just thinks that he can be stubborn and say, we're not going to participate in that,
Sure.
and it'll just go away.
Yeah.
But that's just not reality.
Yeah.
So I think there's those two parts, and they almost seem like distinctively separate things. But that one person still generally has to do it, has to make the trains run on time and be the salesman, the advocate for their program, sell a vision in order to get the financial support that, frankly, you need
Yes.
today. So that's my initial thoughts just on.
Yes, well, and there's a comment here from JEH saying that, he sees B fans on 247 boards kind of just accepting the G6 spot now. And I think overall that is the case. I see a lot more.
Took some time.
Just the reality of where things are at right now. And it's not a bad place to be. Like, it's like, I don't know. But anyway,
yeah.
But he goes on to say, the blame now is running the athletic department. So it is a little bit, it sounds like, and please, JEH, correct us if we're wrong, but it is a little bit more of like making sure the trains are running on time, hiring and firing the right coaches at the right time. Like that's that piece.
Yeah.
What I want to get into next. So correct us if we're wrong here, or at least give us your opinion, JEH. Is it more of the practitioner side, or is it more of the salesman side? And maybe he was a good practitioner at one time, and now maybe he's not so much anymore. I don't know.
We gotta bring this one up because this is the perfect answer.
The military one.
Yes. Yeah. Road. He's on. Basically, he's saying he's on the road program,
gotcha.
Which I might have known a little bit about that my last few months. I'll just say months. There's some people that are on the road program for years.
Sure.
But he's on the road program, retired on active duty. Which basically just means you're coming, you're collecting a paycheck, you're showing up, you're what's the thing where you put punching the clock every day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
See, I knew what you were doing there.
Yeah,
you're punching the clock.
Exactly.
Well, the thing I want to talk about more now is this blueprint, and it's about NIL. It's about the salesman piece to that, which he didn't really want to do. And or at least it seems like he didn't want to do it. And, I think that's where some of this issue lies. So I want to talk about the big players here real quick. There's just a couple names. I'm going to let you know who they are. B fans know who these people are, but other people may not. Obviously, Scott Barnes, he's the current vice president, director of athletics at Oregon State. Kyle Bjornstad was the general manager of the OSU, I think, football team, and also founder of the Damnation Collective. So that his name's Kyle. Then Brent Baylock was an executive deputy AD, chief operating officer. And then, of course, Blueprint Sports is an NIL agency / consulting firm. All right. So we got Scott, Kyle, and Brent. And I'm going to be using belligerentbeeves.com.
Okay.
belligerentbeeves.com. I'm going to try to summarize this, but if anybody wants a deeper dive on this, you got to check out this website. Now, it's a full website for Oregon State fans and all that kind of stuff. But, man, they lay this whole thing out. They did a ton of right-to-know requests of FOIA or called public records, whatever you want to call it, that they've gotten over the course of time. And they're also expecting another round of records to come their way this Friday, March 6th. So I'm going to be checking it out next week to see if there's additional information that they get that they can add to this. So big shout out, belligerentbeeves.com is where I'm going to be kind of using most of this. I did use some other reporting. Sportico, I'll get into that too, because they were kind of heavy into this.
Sportico is a great reference.
Yeah, they were heavy into this as well. So here are the highlights, and I'm going to put a couple things up on the screen. I'm not going to read them verbatim, but these were clipped off of belligerentbeeves.com. So it appears through the both the reporting from Sportico and from a lot of this digging into, I believe Belligerent Beef said it was like 1,400 different documents or pages or something. It looks like Blueprint was cherry picked by the Oregon State administration, and namely Barnes and Blaylock. Brent Blaylock was the main point of contact and negotiated the contract for Blueprint, and he did have a prior relationship with Blueprint. The depth of that, nobody's really going to know, but there definitely was a prior relationship. After Blueprint was selected, Kyle, who was the GM and former founder runner of the Damnation Collective, was told that after the fact, after that they picked Blueprint, there was actually at least one other entity pitched with their idea of what they would do when acquiring the Damnation Collective. Kyle did not know that this entity even put in a pitch, prior to any of this. And they actually the university used a sole source procurement exception that got approved so that other competitors were not needed to look into. I'm not going to go down the procurement method, but sole source sounds exactly what it is. It's one source and you don't have to look anywhere else. And it was approved, and it was approved for Blueprint. Oregon State officials stated that the second pitch was a stronger pitch, at least financially, and was absolutely viable for Oregon State. Kyle then told Barnes that he believed that Barnes was trying to make him the scapegoat for the Blueprint deal. Kyle says that he negotiated a better deal with Lockerverse, but Barnes would not explore that company. Kyle then submitted his resignation to Oregon State on October 2nd. Now, it goes on. After hearing that a FOIA request from Sportico, it was Daniel Libet, was put into Oregon State kind of turned on like PR damage control. Like, and it says it on this belligerent beaver. It's like, uh-oh, do I have to be worried about this? Says a guy from Blueprint. And Blaylock's like, nah, it's kind of normal. We get these all the time. Don't worry about it. In reality, no, there was something to worry about.
When you turn the lights on in a nasty basement, the rats and the cockroaches go scurrying.
They scatter, yes. So Barnes requested that they, the university or the athletic department, attack this misinformation by contacting two people at the Oregonian, Bill Oram and Nick Daschel. Blaylock emailed Barnes, and he CC'd other OSU officials and John Canzano and told Barnes that the accusations of enriching himself from the Blueprint deal has to stop. So he was angry that there are these accusations out there that he was enriching himself. They were his buddies, all of that kind of stuff. So he emails Barnes, other officials, and John Canzano, and said, guys, this has to stop.
Knock it off.
You got to do something about this. Then, keep flipping my slides, less than a week after the Sportico article, Kyle's, of course, resignation came out. People asked Blaylock about that, and he actually got a text from someone. It was redacted. We don't know who. But after Kyle resigned, Blaylock got a text saying, how can we get rid of Blueprint? Like, that's how quickly this just turned sour. Yeah. Barnes stated that they needed an outside entity to take over the Damnation Collective, or it would have been left for dead. That's what Barnes told the Oregonian, and kind of like why they were doing what they were doing. Blaylock then also resigned. Now, in December, Sportico published another article saying that an internal investigation from Oregon State found that Brent Blaylock had no relationship with Blueprint Sports. So I want to be very clear. New article in December, or a couple months ago, saying that an internal investigation said that Blaylock had no relationship with Blueprint. Blaylock also told Sportico that his resignation was, quote, unrelated to the allegations, unquote. But he did say, of course, anything like that would kind of weigh on you. Like, yeah, he knew about it, but it's not why he resigned. So basically, PR, complete nightmare. Kind of over it now a little bit, but it's really, again, like I said, a lot of Beeve fans hated this when they saw the details, the amount of money. I think it was like 50-50 or something crazy that Blueprint was keeping. And they're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so that's when Belligerent Beeve started asking questions and doing these FOIA. Sportico started doing FOIA. It completely fell apart. And I really think that was the beginning. And this was back spring, summer of last year. So it's almost been a year now. Like, that was the beginning of this kind of snowball as to where we are today. And I know JEH said it's the running of the athletic department. But I think this was really the kind of the kickoff that lit that fuse, and it's just been burning ever since. That's my opinion, Steve.
Well, I knew nothing of any of this before, hearing you break it down.
Hopefully I did okay, because there was a ton there, and I tried to collapse.
Well, what I'll say is I think taking a big picture look, a lot of schools, a lot of programs across the country have had a lot of problems, had their own problems with NIL collectives. I know from my perspective as a Penn State fan, they had right when this all started, they had 2 or 3 collectives pop up. They were competing against each other. And then, the school comes in, kind of directs, I don't want to say takes over, but directs it all in one kind of a conglomerate collective.
Right.
And they went out and hired different Penn State, along with a lot of other schools. Sure. There's things, about Rutgers, they're changing. So some of their stuff didn't work. There's a lot of schools that have tried a lot of things with NIL and hiring outside companies and have just been abject failures. Hasn't worked out. They've changed direction, whatever, and they're trying new things now.
Yeah.
So that's just the big picture of the atmosphere of the country. There's a lot of schools are having problems with this stuff. Now, again, though, specifically with Oregon State, what they have been through, the Pac collapsing, trying to rebuild the Pac.
Right.
At first, they were trying to rebuild it as a power conference, and now, the new reality is of the revenue. Now that we have a new media deal, I know this was before the media deal.
Right.
But so when you combine the pressures of the entire environment of college football,
right,
and then with the situation they're in, both Oregon State and Washington State in a really tough position. And then I don't know how old Barnes is. I don't know if you know. But
I don't know how old he is.
You got an old school AD that did some really good things, but maybe is not in his element in this new environment. I think that just kind of seems like the situation without me knowing all the details.
Yeah.
And JH said the guy's going to be fired. I mean, maybe it's a good time to move on now to somebody, and I'll say younger because I don't have to worry about getting sued. Like a younger athletic director who's more just comfortable in this environment, ready to go forward and do what you need to do in the modern environment to raise that money, raise that when your programs already have shortfalls in funding because your revenue dropped. You're going to need somebody who's a real hard charger, who is successful at going out there and being able to work this angle and get money in, get the collectives on board and running smoothly and efficiently.
Yeah.
If they were only getting 50%, if you're a fan, okay.
Yes.
And you're donating to this.
Yes.
And I know Penn State fans who are giving $10,000, and you find out half of that money just went to this other company that was maybe, just a buddy of one of the school officials,
right?
Which at the time they were thinking that, you'd be pissed. Everybody would be pissed. Yes. Where is my money going to? And it just seems like this may have gotten out of Barnes' control.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just time to move on. A fresh start. They're really, I mean, from when he took over this job to what Oregon State is now, they're in a new entity in a new environment, completely different environment, and maybe it's time for a fresh start.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. The way I kind of read this was that, and being in the position that I'm in, when you were obviously in the Navy, like you've got to have right hand men and women. Like you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And so when you delegate or you have your deputy AD or whatever, kind of run with something, especially something that either A, you're not interested in, B, you're not educated in, and he might be, of course you're going to let him run with it. So I definitely think there's a flavor on the way I read this, a pretty strong flavor where Barnes was pretty hands off of this stuff. Now you can say, well, it's his job if there's an issue, or at least to be double checking on things. Okay, I can understand that. But he was using his deputy AD, clearly trusted him, probably knew more about this than what he did. And so, I'm not giving him a pass, but there's the reality of a structure within an entity as well.
And sometimes that works out.
Sure.
So sometimes you give people, I'm as a leader in the Navy over the years, sometimes I give people a little extra chain or rope and say, either they're going to succeed or they're going to hang themselves kind of thing.
Right.
And when they do great and they do great things, you get a bunch of the credit,
Mhm.
and you're hailed for, oh, he lets his people do their job
Yeah,
and whatever. And because let's be honest, if this was a huge success and Oregon State was bringing in tons of money,
Mhm.
no one would care at
Right.
all. They'd be like,
Right.
great job, Barnes.
Right.
It's probably the results are affecting how people look at it.
Yeah. No doubt about that. No doubt. And again, once you find that one thing, and then you start digging, and then maybe you find another, and things just start to smell funny.
Yes.
Maybe they're not funny, but they definitely smell funny. It's at the very least, it's a PR nightmare.
Yeah.
Even though if everything's above board and there's not an issue, Oregon State said there was no issue, all of that.
Yeah.
Still a complete PR cluster.
Absolutely.
That's what it turned into. So a couple things. I'm
Yes,
going to kind of go from the bottom up here. So yes, JEH, where does the buck stop? Who was ultimately responsible? I get it.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of said. I hear you, brother. He said Barnes is 63 years old. He said when the seat gets hot, he fires Bray, Tinkle, and Blaylock. That's certainly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, not what it looks like. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Okay, so Blaylock, this was a good one. So even though Blaylock has resigned or was relieved or whatever you want to call it, he's still, according, and this is accurate, still getting payment from OSU of $19,000 a month for, I don't know, I guess a severance.
Yeah, and those are contract things usually, or rules of employment. And,
yeah,
you know, it's a state university, so
yeah, this was a good item. Something that people need to really remember. Barnes did have a heart attack right before the pack collapse, so you know, definitely has had some health issues. Yes, JEH, thank you. 50% was the blueprint keep, to your point about that, and he says the lock verse was 25 to 30. So yeah, I mean, massive difference.
Now let me just say, I'm going to play devil's advocate on that one, because if you get 50% of 50 million, you know, that's pretty good. If you get 25% of 8 million, you know, so you can't just look at it as the numbers. Because like if you can hire the best salespeople in the world and they can make you tons of money, then they're worth their commission. But if they're, you know, if it's a 1-for-1 trade, or you think one was just hired because they were buddies with somebody, then yeah, that's a big deal.
So Jack asks about how high up the sole source approval was. They have a procurement officer.
Yeah.
That was her title, like, you know, procurement officer. And she's the one that reviews everything, signs off on it. They actually, if you want to see it, I saw it on, I think it was Belligerent Beeve, had the actual, you know, I think it's a 2-page form where she goes through the whole thing. She initialed it, that she signed off on it. So the procurement officer there at Oregon State, I believe, is the one that did that. Belligerent Beavers on YouTube. Okay, I didn't realize that. Thanks, JEH. Apparently, Rumbling says he can't stand it because they go on tangents too much. Sometimes I go on tangents. I hope he doesn't say that about us. And I'm doing this in reverse, guys, but there was some stuff there right at the bottom that kind of was filling in some of our
So you talked earlier about how we covered the you know, all the pack collapsing and all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you, dwellers, if you weren't with us at the very beginning and you want something fun to do, go back and watch some of our first videos where we broke down the court cases, you know, that they were having in the state of Washington over the pack collapsing. That is some entertainment.
I don't think I'm going to do that, but y'all can have at it. Steven's with us. Good to have you, Steven. He said he had not heard about most of this information. Again, check out the Belligerent Beeves.com, I think is what it is. They have a whole site that goes through all of this in detail. It's interesting. You know, you don't have to be a Beaver fan. I found it entertaining in a weird way. What is this? Kerry Hayward. Barnes did stick with OSU when many others from OSU and WSU and exec positions bailed as the pack disintegrated. No, I'm not his mother. We said that at the beginning. I mean, he has been the mainstay now Really kind of throughout. Now, Murphy's been there too, but she was pretty new when all of this kind of early went down. She wouldn't have kind of frankly known any better. I mean, I'm not trying to knock her by saying that, but yeah, great point.
And can I say there's two truths that can exist in this reality.
Right.
One is that Barnes did a great job for OSU and has served the university well, served the pack well. He had basically kind of the stiff upper lip when everyone else was crying and whining and whatever.
Yeah,
he was there. He stood tall. He stood up in the fire and defended the university, their athletic programs, all that stuff. And did great job. You can say he did a great job up to a point, but also at the same time, it can be true that in this new world, this new reality, the university is allowed to say, okay, well, thank you what you've done, but now we feel like it's time as we move forward. It is 2026 now.
Yeah,
like as we move forward, we think we'd like to go in a different direction and go out and hire someone who maybe is younger, is more comfortable in the world of NIL.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, just kind of weird. JEH, he mentions Barnes fired the men's basketball coach Tinkle with a game left, told the players, to play the rest of the season for themselves. Just the timing's so weird. And JEH says Barnes is the highest paid G6 AD at $1 million per year. Well, that contract was signed.
I was going to say
how long ago.
The context of that was he was a P5 AD. Sure. So that's a little misleading, JEH.
No end date with Blaylock's contract. What have you heard? Wait, what have you all heard? Who is going to be the next AD for Kentucky? Any info on Kentucky?
No.
I got nothing. Sorry, Dwayne.
It's going to be someone young who has proven that he can raise money.
Blueprint has been fired from all their contracts except the one NCAA school left. Athletic department was on the right track before the pack collapse. I hear you.
Yeah.
Tyler, happy Wednesday. How you guys doing? NDSU's moving to the Mountain West. Hope they can be good in that conference. They'll be good. I have no doubt.
I want to respond to what JH said there.
Okay.
I think it was JH about how the athletic department was
doing.
It was
rumbling.
Yeah. Oh, rumbling. Okay, rumbling. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the deal, JY.
It's about damn time.
Everybody knows I'm a Big Ten fan, and I will say the football in the Big Ten has gotten better, is more entertaining with Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
But what else in the world of college football has gotten better since that happened? Nothing. Like everything else is worse. The football is better in the Big Ten, but everything else everywhere has gotten worse, mainly because of that deal. Like if we could go back in time, which we can't do, but if we could go back in time and just set everything back, the world of college football would be a lot better place. There were so many dominoes after that that affected so many conferences. It affected the pack collapse. It affected the Mountain West. I mean, it affected so much. But unfortunately, we can't do that. They were on a good track. And Oregon State was on a fantastic track, and they got screwed. Oregon State and Washington State.
Sure.
They got left out.
Yep.
A lot of other people benefited and made more money.
Yep.
And Oregon State, the Beavs have not benefited, have gone the other way, and now are making less money. And it sucks. That's the new reality.
So we're going to end it with this. We had a question about Kentucky's AD. Of course, Bill is on it. He says Dwayne Peavy, the former UK deputy AD and current DePaul AD, appears to be the front runner for the UK AD job.
I do have one last thing I want to add.
Okay, go.
Okay, because it'll give some context to the Bees fans.
Okay.
Just kind of what's going on. So I mentioned Iowa State earlier.
Yep.
They had a recent situation, and some people are very mad at the AD there. So they are eliminating the women's gymnastics team.
Yes.
Okay. They're going to start. They say they're going to replace it with another women's team. So if our viewers are not aware,
I hear flag football is a new up and coming sport.
That could be. It's going to be in the Olympics.
Go ahead.
I think they're going to add women's wrestling. Iowa has wrestling.
Okay.
I think they will add wrestling.
Okay.
Very proud of their wrestling there.
Okay.
But we'll see. But they're in a situation where they're still in a P4 conference, but they're having revenue issues. They lost their coach. to Penn State, come in, give them a lot more money to work with and all that kind of stuff. They have, I think, one of the very best athletic directors in the country. A little more old school guy, great practitioner of the job of being an athletic director, but the realities of this new world are hitting them now. He says it's not a money issue, and I will believe him. They are having some other money issues. Their football program, is kind of starting to suffer because of that. But I just want to throw that out there for a little bit of context. It's not a direct comparison,
right?
But there's other schools that are having issues, that are having problems. And they're trying to do the best thing that the best they can do with limited resources.
Yep.
Now with the Iowa State situation, they hired he says it's not a money thing, but when they needed a new gymnastics coach, they hired someone that had never coached gymnastics at the college level.
I saw that. That's awkward.
It is very awkward. And from what I've heard, there was very little resources put into the program. Had personality issues, conflicts between the coaches and gymnasts and some of their supporters and parents. You know how that stuff can go.
Mm-hmm.
But they also, the university and a lot of universities across the country are not able to put the resources into their Olympic sports and some of these other sports that are non-revenue sports,
right?
Because of the behemoth that is football.
Sure.
I mean, all these decisions have been made for football to make more money, to reinvest it in the football program. And so other programs are suffering, other universities are suffering. I'm not trying to make light of Oregon State's situation,
right?
Just saying there's a lot of schools that are having problems in all kinds of areas across the country.
No doubt. So we're going to end this sucker right now. And I want to give 2 updates real quick. You can read JEH's. He's trying to tell you that Barnes signed his contract extension in October of 23.
Right.
But that was still before like a lot of the, hit the fan. Yes, I know the pack was falling apart at that point, but nobody knew what the future held for the reality.
And a lot of the people around the program, around the school, we're still basically with the hope of they were going to still be a power program, a P4 program, P5 program.
Yeah. Okay, we're not done because we just got a Dash Conrad gave us a super chat. Thank you, Dash Conrad. Is the Pac-12 hesitant to add another school because the members would have split up the media money even more? I do not think that's the case. I know that's what a lot of people say. They said it with the Mountain West, and guess what? The Mountain West added North Dakota State. And guess how part of the reason they were able to do that? Because North Dakota State isn't taking media money. Yeah. So if you get the right member and they're out there, they're going to take a smaller cut. I'm not going to say no media money if you're asking for a full member. That's asking for too much.
Especially depending on who you are.
Yeah, depending on who. But there's ways you can do it. So I firmly believe for both the Mountain West and the Pac, and I know your question's about the Pac, I don't believe this whole they're cutting the pie, their share of the pie is smaller. Yeah, there's some to that, but you can work around that in negotiations, especially in the first couple of years. And what makes more sense for the entity in the long term, more than a year from now? It's to have another freaking member for scheduling, for just, not having an 8-member league. Like 8-member league, you're on the verge of not having a league anymore again. So there's way more pros to me for them to get that member than just this possibility of a smaller media. So that's just my opinion. I don't think that's really the case. I think the case is, like we've been talking about, I hate to say it, they have a wine taste on a beer budget.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Well, and yeah. And I'm going to say the same thing, but in a little bit more positive perspective.
Yeah, I'm a jerk.
No, you're not. But I think they have a certain to add another program. I think they have a certain level of what they want.
Yeah,
they have candidates in mind. They went after some of those American Conference teams, and they haven't gotten them.
Right.
I think a lot of the people are waiting. I think those programs are waiting basically for an ACC invitation. I've said this since the very beginning.
Right.
And I think that they want basically what you said. They have candidates in mind. They have a certain level of program in mind, and there's just frankly no one out there that's either whether they're interested or willing to pull the trigger.
Yep.
That they feel is good enough or that's going to improve their conference.
Yep. You can get New Mexico State cheap.
Right, and
but they don't want New Mexico
right because
State.
they don't feel that it improves their
So they have to
Yeah.
they have to weigh the pros and
Yeah.
cons to that.
Yep.
And that's I couldn't tell you. I mean, to me, for now, I mean, we can clearly see they think it's a bigger con to add New Mexico State.
Right.
And until they can either talk themselves in to the pro of doing that, they're not gonna have them.
Yeah.
So there's other people are putting their comments in here. I know Bill, Rumbling, other people, Jack, a lot of people. I'm not going to put them up, but
and let's look at it. Let's look at it from their perspective. If you're the Pack right now,
yeah,
right, and you want to improve yourself, you want to be. You've accepted that you're not a power conference anymore, but you want to be the best of the G6. You want someone who's going to improve you,
right,
and so that you're better than the American Conference. Okay,
right.
Would you take New Mexico State right now?
If my number one goal is to be better than the American, no.
Yeah, and I think that seems like that's their goal is to be at the top of the G6.
Sure.
Yeah,
but I don't think an 8-member league is going to get them there either.
Yeah,
so
right.
Like it's kind of a no-win situation. Like I would say neither of those is a winning formula, in my opinion.
Right.
We can see maybe in 3 years, Oregon State turns their things around, Washington State turns their thing around. Boise's going to continue to be a juggernaut. Fresno's going to get a new stadium. That's not going to happen. But I mean, it could happen. It could happen.
And
but I don't think it's likely.
And there's a lot of things outside of their sphere that could happen. The whole college football landscape could change.
Yeah.
There might be a shift towards more regionality.
Sure.
The ACC could cease to exist in 3-4 years.
You're going to bring that up again.
I know, right? There's all kinds of, to me, I think they're going to try and wait it out, do the best they can and wait it out until they can get a program that they think improves their conference.
All right. So I will do a whole football preview. We're going to go deep, heavy into all this, Tyler, come July, August. I'll give you my early take, super early take without doing any sort of deep dive on any of this stuff. 500 floor for the Bison. That's my in conference. Conference. 500 floor in conference. Moses, any thoughts on that?
I think they will contend. Well, right now they can't play in the Mountain West Championship game. There's some things that could change between.
It could change.
Yeah. I think they will contend. When I say contend, I mean they're not eliminated from the Mountain West Championship game numerically wise. Sure. Until the last 3 or 4 weeks in the season.
Yeah, I could see that being possible. I could see that being possible.
I'm not saying they're going to win the Mountain West.
Sure.
But that's where I think they'll be.
Speaking of that, schedule release dates, I've been told very, very soon. Of course, if you listen to my discussion with A.D. Larson, they were very close in getting their out-of-conference schedule buttoned up. He thought Monday of this week at the latest. They needed to do that before the Mountain West could schedule their entire schedule. So I haven't had any updates come to me outside of saying soon. I wouldn't be shocked if it's maybe a Friday news drop. I don't think they're going to want to drop it during basketball tourney week. So I think if we get it by Friday, great. If we don't, I think they're going to wait a little bit longer because I just don't see them releasing it unless they do it Monday before the tournament. I don't see them doing it during the tournament because they want all eyes on basketball.
Absolutely. During the conference tournament.
During the conference tournament. Yeah, for sure.
I have one to pin you down on.
Yeah.
How many bids does the Mountain West get to the NCAA tournament?
So I have been rooting for 3 for all season. But last week with all the upsets that happened and last night with all the upsets that happened, I think right now the only 2 that get in are Utah State and hopefully New Mexico. I think the only way the Aztecs are able to get in is if they win. I think they have to win the tournament.
We turned you into a basketball fan, JY. I never thought I'd see this day.
Well, speaking of that, I had a meeting with a discussion with Dan Butterly today. That will drop tomorrow. And I told him the exact same thing. I have never been so excited for a basketball tournament, NCAA or both conference and NCAA tournament as I am this year. So you're not wrong. I say that to Mr. Butterly.
Maybe we'll go next year to the Mountain West tournament.
You know what I need? I need more vacation time. Let me just see if there's any other quick questions.
I think Vegas in March wouldn't be too bad.
No, it'd be great. All right, I think we're good enough. I know there's some other ones on there, but we're going to wrap it up. We're over an hour into this. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Always great chatter in the Dweller Cellar, and JEH was on it tonight. Thanks for joining us, JEH. I knew you'd have some comments regarding Barnes and Oregon State, and he did not disappoint. Neither did Rumbling. They both were giving us some great content, as well as everybody else. So if you missed my Tarleton update, that one hit yesterday. Believe it or not, Steve, of course, after that drops, guess what?
New news.
I get new news, yes. But we're going to wait a little bit on that. I was trying to build up as much as I possibly could for that update. I didn't get everything that I wanted to. I got most of it. So I put it out, and of course, I get more right after I put it out. But we'll get to that again someday.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. And again, my discussion with Dan Butterly drops tomorrow. We talk governance, D1 cabinet. I know you know who's going to love this discussion. Immaculate is going to love this discussion. We talk basketball tournament because he's a co-chair on the men's basketball subcommittee. We talk patches on jerseys. We talk realignment in the West. We talk federal. I mean, we talk about freaking everything. And of course, we talk about the Big West because he's the commissioner of the Big West. So with that, hey, make sure you check that out tomorrow. With that, hey, thank you guys for watching this episode. As always, we'll be back live again next week, and we'll see you.